Hello world! Welcome to the Molly Plus Knitting podcast. My name is Molly and this is a podcast about knitting, life, and discovering new things about yourself and about other people. So thank you so much for joining this journey, and as any good journey, there must be a disclaimer. So like the ones that you get on an airplane, in the case of an emergency, please put on an oxygen mask yourself before helping others. I feel that the knitting community is a very caring one, so I'd just like to remind everyone to make sure to take care of yourselves before helping others, because we are our greatest assets. So let's dive right into the podcast. So a little bit about me. I would like to describe myself as someone who is ambitious about my career, my hobby, and my passions, and that's part of the reason why I started this podcast. So how I started knitting is actually quite interesting. As you might guess, knitting is not a big part of my culture. I come from Taiwan, so knitted items just generally are too warm for such a warm, hot climate. There is summer and then there's chilly season, so knitting doesn't really work well in Taiwan. So funny thing is that for growing up, my mom has always said that for gift giving, never buy her anything, because anything I could buy comes from her wallet and she could just buy herself. So really she's always encouraged to make things for the people around us. And starting out, I got these little, how do you describe them? They're little boards bound together with nails on top of it, and you can use the yarn to go across it and do certain things to it to kind of knit a scarf. I think it's kind of like a simplified version of a knitting machine in which there's nothing mechanical. It's all with a crochet hook and that little board thing. So that's where I started. I was making scarves because even though Taiwan is cold, if Taiwan is not cold, you might still want to wear a scarf in the winter in case of strong winds and stuff like that. So I was making little acrylic scarves for people around me. Quite honestly, looking back, if I could still find any of them, I don't think I would like any of those, but that's kind of where I started. From that point on, I've tried knitting on and off. I think I made my boyfriend a knitted scarf again with actual knitting needles this time. I still have the needles, let me get them. With these needles, these really straight needles, they're size 10, I think, 11. They're US 11 and they're humongous. So I was learning how to knit on these, and it was like a simple basket weave scarf. And it turned out well, except he never wears it. So, because he's not a scarf guy. So I think this is probably a common thing in the knitting community, in which you make something for someone else and they never like it anyways. So yeah, this is what I learned how to knit on. From that point on, I think I tried to do hats, but it never really worked out. And when I actually started getting really into knitting was actually during grad school. So I was in grad school, it was the end of the semester, it's the winter, and I lost three hats within one winter. And it irks me so much that I picked up the knitting supplies that I had sitting around and started knitting myself a hat, and I still have the hat here. So it's this really simple hat that's green and white, with ribbing on the bottom and moss stitch on top. So a moss stitch is really just if you do purl and knit and purl, and then you alternate every 2 rows, which ends up with this really nice texture here. I really don't know where the pattern is. I think it's just a random blog post, and I just did a lot of trial and error until I got to a point that it would fit my head. And actually at that time, because knitting was such a new thing, I twisted every stitch. Every single knit stitch is twisted, so I think that makes the fabric not as dense, which was a problem because right after I finished knitting it, I went ice skating, and it felt pretty cold. So after that, I went home and found myself some I found myself some liner fabric and just lined the inside, and this is hand sewn in. So this hat has been serving me very well, and this is the beginning of a knitting journey. So this started about 3 years ago, and it's been fun learning about all sorts of different materials and such since then. So yeah, let me know how you started your knitting journey. I would love to learn you know, where you came from, you know, what influenced you to knitting. Comment below. Just would like to learn a little bit more about everyone else too. Yeah, so yeah, it's been 3 years since I started doing this, and I feel like a beginner. I still feel like a beginner, even though I've made a good number of items. I'll share a few with you later. And that kind of inspired me to start this podcast. So when I first started knitting, it was of course all acrylic yarn, you know, basic materials that you can get. It's pretty cheap. But very quickly I realized that, I really want to try out the nicer material, the wool, maybe the silk even. So I went to a local yarn store, and the sticker price really shocked me. On top of that, I also just felt so out of place, because in my mind, there are certain people who knit, and I am not like them. I am not that group of people, and also I'm a beginner too, so I just didn't feel like I am good enough to be in a local yarn store that sold beautiful yarns at a very high price tag. So, you know, that kind of discouraged me a little bit, but I just want to start this podcast because I want to say that's just not true. Everybody starts at a different place with knitting. You know, knitting doesn't have to be a part of your culture to actually enjoy it. So I want my story, you know, my background to add to this knitting journey that everyone is going through. And also, I was also inspired by other knitting podcasts like Knitting Tradition and Felicia for Phylena. When I first watched her podcast, I actually chuckled along, which doesn't always happen, and felt a very strong urge that I really want to start my own podcast. So I feel that that's something that I learned about myself. That's a horn blaring. Oh my god, really? I thought that the weather because the weather would be bad, you know, people would not be on the road as much. But the joys of living in a more urban suburb. But anyways, where was I? Oh, I said I was very inspired by Felicia, and I discovered that I want a podcast, so I started one. And I just want to remind everyone that, you know, knitting, you do knitting because you knit because you want to. You improve your knitting because you want to, not because the past is bad or the progress is good, but because you want to see what's next. And that's something that I feel should be central to this podcast, about learning about yourself and going at your own pace, really. So here we are. Yeah, so I'd just like to show you a few things that I've made recently. Another horn blaring. Okay, yeah. So I'd just like to show you a few things that I've made recently, and share some things that I learned on the way. So recently I've been making these toe bean socks. Let me show you. That's got these really cute paw prints. Focus. Aha, these really cute paw prints. This is the Toe Bean for Everyone pattern by Ariana Mao, and 80% of the pattern proceeds go to the Vancouver Kitten Rescue, I think. So I thought this is a really great cause to, you know, buy myself a pattern and learn something new. So this sock is constructed from the toe up. So from the bottom, knit all the way to the top side. And I've never done that before. So this is a very interesting journey for me. And on top of that, I made 3 pairs. So yeah, it was sock galore for a little bit. I made 3 pairs because 3 of my best friends from grad school, they all have cats. 2 of them got cats very recently, so I thought, well, I should make them something for Christmas. And obviously Christmas has come and passed, and here are their socks. I'll ship them to you guys soon if you guys are watching. But yeah, that's the inspiration. And so this is my first time doing the toe up technique, which is really nice if you're knitting for yourself, because you can try it on to figure out if the toe fits, if the length is right. Doesn't matter as much if you're trying to guess what other people's foot size is, which was interesting. I actually made a mistake of making clown socks, so they were stupidly long, and I made 2 of them, and I had to frog both of them to get them to a normal size. I'll insert a picture here so you can kind of visualize what it looks like, but that was a stupid mistake. But I got a lot of practice out of making socks. This is also my first time doing a duplicate stitch, which is for this area, you know, the little paw print area. And I think it's pretty fun. It's pretty simple, and I really liked it. But when I showed this to my other friend who is also really into cats, I was like, I am not making another pair of socks another pair of these toe bean socks this year, because 3 pairs in a row was a lot. So yeah, that was kind of funny. Yeah, and next I also want to share with you these mittens that I made. These are also for friends and family, so this is for my great uncle and great aunt who live in Texas, so they probably don't need this anymore. So these are the spruce tree mittens, which is designed by Emily Benson. You can find her on Ravelry. This is a free pattern, which I greatly enjoyed. And I feel like the yarn choice was not the best because you have trouble seeing the cable details there. But either way, these are still very warm mittens and very utilitarian. Oh, and the yarn is Knit Picks City Tweed Heavyweight in Jacquard, I think. Not really sure how to pronounce that word. Not even sure if that's an actual color. Anyways, so this is a single skein project because I have trouble restraining myself from getting pretty yarns that is just one single skein. So my grand aunt also got one, so it's for my grand aunt and great uncle, so I made 2. This is using the Tin Can Knits world's simplest mittens, and I used 2 yarns because I have single skeins for both of them, and I wasn't sure if I can make a full mitten with just 1 skein, so I added this stripe in between, hoping to kind of make the color transition work a little better. But I do really like the color combination. It kind of has a really retro feel. Oh, and the 2 yarns is Knit Picks Indian Treasure, which is this one, and the Knit Picks City Tweed DK. So I'm also really proud of this. But it's spring now, so this will be also useful for the winter. And finally, I am really proud about this recent finished object. It is also a single skein type of project because, as you can guess, that I like to buy single skeins of stuff and then have trouble figuring out what to do with them. So this is the Quiet Evening Shawl by Venera Sharapova. Sorry if I'm butchering all the names. This is also a free pattern. And it's got really beautiful, beautiful kind of leaf motifs all over. It is constructed, how was this constructed? Yeah, it was constructed, I forgot how I made this. I just feel like it was a sea of lace for the longest time. How did I make this? I'm pretty sure it's like there was so many increases and then Yeah, oh, I remember now. Okay, you start in the middle here, and then you keep increasing until you get this entire length, and then you also work your way down this way. So it's kind of worked. I'll put a diagram. It's worked like that. So that was a big challenge. I don't think I've really done this before, and I actually made two. So this was the same pattern made last year. Wait, which side is the top? Oh, here. This side is the top. So I made this last year, and I made these two so that I can give both of my grandmothers a shawl, which I think would be pretty useful in Taiwan because this is a pretty light material, so you can wear this basically every season, including summer if you go to very cold, air-conditioned places, which can happen sometimes. So I'm really excited to be able to finish this. And both of the yarns are the Touch Yarns hand-painted mohair merino 2-ply that I got in New Zealand last year. So this is right before the pandemic happened, and this is also around the time where I was really getting into fancier yarns, because I can. Because I was able to financially do that. So I found these yarns, and also the exchange rate in New Zealand is really good compared to USD. So I was like, oh, it's like buying yarn, but everything is 30% off. So I'm like, or 20% off. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy all the yarn that I could, which ended up with resulting with a lot of single skein yarns that I was like, what do I do with this? So shawls, yeah. So yeah. Okay, so that's all of the recent FOs that I've had, and I think they spanned mostly between the end of Feb and March, so a little bit long for FOs. I think for future episodes I might not have as many FOs. FOs is finished objects, in case this is new terminology. I'll try my best to make the terminology as clear as possible for everyone, and I guess to also address a little bit about yarn choices, going from acrylic to the premium fibers. Yes, it's a journey, but you know, if for any reason, please don't feel bad that you're using acrylic, because plastic has its use in society, otherwise it wouldn't even be a material. So you know, acrylic is a very durable, very useful material, and it's also very cost effective. So please don't feel bad at all if you feel like, oh, everyone's using this fancy material and I'm using acrylic. No, that's BS. Just use whatever material you like. And if I have, and here's a tip actually. So I feel that there's certain brands like Knit Picks, which are pretty good about providing pretty budget-friendly materials, budget-friendly yarns with really good materials. For example, this sock that I made, this is their twill fingering, I think. It's a superwash wool, so it's 100% wool, and it's treated so that it doesn't felt very easily, which is generally what I would choose if I'm gifting other people, in case they want to throw it into the washing machine and not worry about things felting. So Knit Picks generally have very good, very affordable price points for new knitters. And I think their material is also pretty good. They also run sales very often, so I highly recommend them if you're just starting out. Okay, now on to the things that I'm making now. So technically I'm not making anything right now. I'm planning my next makes. So the first thing I'm making, or planning on making, is with this yarn. Let me show you. So you can see it's got blacks, grays, and blues, and it makes this let me grab that, variegated fabric, kind of like this. And as you can guess, this is another single skein that I bought from New Zealand last year. Yay! So it's been sitting around for a year, and I keep saying I'm going to make it into a hat for my partner. So it's finally happening. What's delaying it is actually a best practice in the knitting world. I am doing my best to swatch things. So Here's one swatch, here's another swatch, here's another swatch. So I'm trying to figure out the gauge for the pattern that I chose, which is Petite Knits Oslo hat. I don't think I'm going to be able to match the gauge perfectly, so I'm trying to see if I can scale things accordingly based on the gauge that I have obtained. Yeah, so that's going to be a new thing. I'll let you know how that turns out. Hopefully good, but I'm going to cast on that project very soon. The next thing that is also on my backlog is the Morel sweater. I think that's what it's called, Morel, from Fiber Tales, and it's quite a journey for me to just get the yarn and the pattern. So Lerke, she released the pattern and it was all over my feed on Instagram because I honestly don't follow that many people on Instagram. I think that's going to slowly change, and it was so beautiful. Like, I really liked her photography, and I also just really liked the pattern. So, and she also came out with a 10% code for to buy the yarn kit from Fiber Co, because that's a collaboration. So when I saw that, I kind of sat on it for a little bit, just wondering like, oh, if I should buy more yarn. I already have a stash. That's not everything. Let me promise you, this is not all the stash that I have. So I sat on it a little bit. The next day I was like, okay, I really like that pattern. I really like the feel of the sweater, so I decided I should go for it. So this would be my first time ever using the recommended yarn for making a sweater. So that's going to be a journey. So I really wanted to use the coupon code that she shared with us. It was on her story. So, you know, I did all of that. First, she shared it on her story, so it went away. So I was like, oh no, the coupon code went away, but I'm pretty sure it's still active. So I messaged her on Instagram. I felt a little bit intrusive, but I think it's totally fair game. So I messaged her. I was like, hey, I know you shared a code. Would you mind sharing it again? She was like, oh, of course. She was really nice about it. So I got the code and I was really excited to use it, except it wouldn't work. I was like, couldn't figure it out. I contacted Lerke again. I felt, again, very like intrusive a little bit. I don't know what's the right word for it, but I was like, I couldn't figure it out. And she was like, I don't know what's wrong with the code. Other people have done it. They were able to get their their coupon to work. So then I actually contacted the Fiber Co themselves on Instagram, and they were super nice about it. I was actually kind of shocked that, you know, how great the customer service was. So I contacted them and I'm like, this is the code that I did. It just wouldn't work. I don't know why. And they were also kind of confused, going like, oh, other people were able to use it. Why can't you? Long story short, let me tell you why. I need to find a picture on my phone first. You see the code down there, and you see the see more that Instagram inserts for swiping up to get to the website. That see more actually blocked out part of the code. So I think what I thought was an O was actually a Q. The little tail got blocked off. So it was a whole fiasco to get to the coupon, because at that point I was like, there's too much sunken cost. I must get the coupon, even though I am totally happy to pay full price. But yeah, that solved the problem. So in case you ever wonder why certain things don't work for you, it might be your phone. So yeah, I'm really happy to have received the yarn. Let me show you. I have, wait, there's another one. So I have 3 of them that is unwinded yet. I haven't winded them yet, and I winded one of them up with a toilet paper roll. Am I flexing in times of a pandemic? The toilet paper roll, the toilet paper thing is like way in the past. It's totally 2020. In 2021, we don't care about toilet paper rolls. We care about the canal thing, right? Anyways, so this is the yarn. This is the Fiber Co. Zero, I think. That's what it's called. Focus. Yeah. And I got it in the colorway Celestio because as much as I like the white, I'm kind of sloppy. I don't trust myself with white fabrics. Like I'll get like nice pasta red dots on it very soon. So I chose this orange, which tends to work very well with my skin tone. I don't know if you can tell, I really like orange. It's like one of my favorite colors. So I got the orange one. And it is 40% alpaca, 40% cotton, and 20% merino. So I'm hoping that this type of blend would make it useful for chilly nights throughout most seasons, so the warmer seasons really. So yeah, this is the first time knitting with the recommended yarn, and that's really exciting for me. So I haven't casted it on yet. I'm still trying to figure out the gauge. So swatching is a very recent thing for me. I am way too lazy to do an actual swatch, but I'm trying my best to make sure that the gauge is correct before I start knitting, so I don't have to knit an entire thing and frog it. Frogging means ripping it out in the knitting community, because when you rip it out, it's rip it, frogging, which I think is pretty funny when I learned it. And also my favorite thing about knitting is that there's like a Control-Z button built into it. Like if you don't like something, rip it out, no problem. Control-Z all the way to the beginning. But I did the yarn swatch and I'm really excited about the yarn because this is a moss stitch. So looking from like right through it, it really doesn't look that attractive. But if you look at the fabric on an angle, I don't know if it's focusing, it has like this really pretty, you can see the texture really nicely. And really, I feel like the moment you have, let me grab that one. The moment you put the fabric on top of something that has a backing, you see the texture a lot better, and that really, like when you're wearing it, there's a backing to the fabric, which is your skin, or whatever you're wearing underneath it, and that texture really pops. So I think it looks really pretty. Very excited about that, and I still need to do more swatching. I don't think I got the right gauge, so that's super exciting. Okay, so that's everything that I've been working on so far. I'll let you know how that goes. If you like, you can also comment below on what you're working on so we can both get some inspiration or maybe aspirations of things you want to work on, because that's what I'm about to talk about. So it's a late into 2021 to be talking about knitting goals, but I'm going to set them anyways. So one of my biggest knitting goals is to do color work. And I actually last year picked out the yarn that I want to do with color work mittens. I wanted to do the Shine mittens. I don't remember who it's by. I'll put a link or something. I'll put a link to all the patterns and the yarns that I mention, if I can find a link to them, that is. But I really wanted to make the Shine mittens, and it's a mitten with geometric square pattern, so I really like that modern look. I even picked out the yarn for it. Let me find that for you. I picked out the yarn for it. I wanted to do a white, and this is a gray kind of square, and put a red lining on the inside, or I can invert all of that. I don't know. I haven't decided yet since they're all still in skeins. So how I got to this point was actually, I think I bought this first, which is Madeline Tosh's Pashmina Whiskey Barrel. Yeah, it is a, I don't remember. I think it's a DK yarn. And I got this. I was like, it's so pretty, but again, I got only a single skein, and I was like, crap, what should I do with this? I was like, oh, I really needed mittens at that time, so I got two more single skein yarns to go with it. So let's hope that it would work out. Oh, and these are Tosh socks. Mad Tosh socks in Ayo and Good Silence. So I've been looking forward to this, but winter has come and go and I still haven't started it. So yeah, I'll let you know when I actually start this. I really look forward to this project that's been in my queue since forever, it feels like. So yeah, I'll let you know. The other thing that I want to do this year is just experimenting more with socks. So I've tried the toe up, top down construction. I think I prefer the top down construction, but I still need to experiment a little bit more. And I've been finding out why people are obsessed with making socks in the knitting community. Because originally I was thinking like, oh, you're using such pretty yarn and you're making socks out of it, people don't even see it. But really there's a whole study of socks out there, because the socks, you must use the right material. I mean, it's not a must, but if you use the right material, your socks will last a lot longer. If you have the right fit, your socks will also last a lot longer, and they're also just good for all seasons, really, because you'd think that wool socks is like super warm and you wouldn't want to wear that for the summer, but in reality wool has a lot of really good wicking properties, so that if you sweat on your foot, it's just going to wick out and it would keep your foot dry, which really, even though it's the summer and you would think it's super hot, because your foot's dry, it'll actually stay pretty comfortable. So that's why I kind of want to try more socks. I want to use more, try out the materials just to see how well they last, which kind of like the sock would be a great project for that. I would like to hear from my friends who receive this, how well they last, or if they just decide to have it as like an indoor lounging sock, that would be fine too. Actually, that would probably let the sock last a lot longer, so it's up to you. Like everyone, you know, you can make socks for all sorts of uses. Like some people, they only make socks just to lounge with. Some people wear the socks that they knit outside in the winter cold. So yeah, just want to try more materials and more types of sock constructions. So it's a whole world out there, and I'll let you know what I learned. And I also really want to join a knit along or do a test knit. That's something I've never done before, and I think that would be an interesting challenge to kind of, you know, force myself to engage a little bit more in the knitting community. Because quite honestly, up to this point, I've been kind of just hanging out the sidelines, kind of peering in and going like, oh, that looks interesting, but I'm totally intimidated. But let's hope for a little bit of change there, and, you know, to do things because I want to, not because I need to become better for any reason. I just want to do it, you know, and becoming better is just a byproduct of this desire. And finally, the last thing that I really want to do this year, this is a reach goal. I don't think okay, let's not preempt it that way. I'm not sure if I will be able to get to it, but I really want to be able to do it in 2021 or in the near future, and it is to be able to design something. I think it's quite fascinating, the whole field of knitwear design, you know, and the things that people take inspiration from that they incorporate into their knitting. So for me, I would like to take more inspiration from my own culture. So I'm Taiwanese, so Taiwan is very rich in culture. So there's like the coastal Chinese culture, there's two different, I don't know, this is another talk for another day, but there's a lot of cultures mixing in Taiwan as a result of all sorts of migration, stuff like that. So I would like to look into my own culture a little bit more and incorporate it into a design that I could hopefully release one day to you guys. So these are my goals for knitting for the rest of this year and beyond, that is. I'm sure new things will emerge, and I will definitely update you on how things are going. So that's all of the knitting related stuff that I have for you. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about life things. So if you're here just for the knitting, I'll see you next month. But if you want to hear a little bit more about my life and just get to know me a little bit more, feel free to hang out a little bit. You know, get your tea and take a sip. I need one. So this is oolong from Taiwan, from Alishan. and it's one of the best teas ever. I feel I'm totally not biased, and I really like oolong because you know, it has caffeine, which is great, and you can, you know, pour hot water over it and still get a lot of flavor out of it, maybe like 2 or 3 times, even up to 6 really. So it's a really great tea. Highly recommend. No bias at all. But yeah, that's what I'm drinking. So a little bit about life. Can somebody explain to me the hype around knitting project bags? This is still a little bit about knitting, but I really don't understand what's, like, project bags. They're just bags that you put your knitting in so that you can store it or bring it on the road. So for me, I just have bags like this, like small bags that I get from buying other things for like smaller projects. So I'll put socks in it, or bigger bags like these, which I got from the Fiber Co. You know, these bigger canvas bags. Usually I get them for free from all sorts of places, and I'll stuff my knitting in there and maybe also my wallet because it's pretty portable. But there's also this like array of beautiful project bags that have like many layers and zippers. I'm like, I kind of just don't get it. You just need a bag. Like, honestly, if I want to, I could probably use a plastic bag too, but I don't have a lot of those laying around. I'm pretty good about bringing my reusable bags to stores. So like, I just don't get it. Can somebody explain to me what's the hype around premium super fancy knitting project bags? Like, someone please explain to me, and maybe if you have a recommendation, put it down there so I can go get it and experience it myself, because I just don't get it. Yeah, it's still knitting related, but that's something that I just don't understand. Maybe because I'm a knitting newbie? Let me know. Anyways, other things, I think recently I've also been very interested in making videos. As you can tell, I got this camera second-handed, and it's a really good camera. I was actually very surprised by, like, I was expecting the camera to come with like a little nick here and there, and it's just perfect. It feels completely new to me. Other than that, the quality is also just really good, and I was very impressed by how it picks up sound so well. So I got the Canon G7X PowerShoot G7X Mark II. And I'll put the name somewhere. I'm not sure if I got it right. And it's a great beginner camera. It's a point and shoot. I also use it for just some photography and other videos. So when I'm out traveling, for whatever travel you're allowed to do, which really means when I'm outdoors doing nature-y things, I've been, you know, grabbing my camera out of my bag, feeling like a grandma, because these days everyone has like their fancy phones that takes super good pictures and stuff, but I wasn't ready to change my phone yet, so I got the camera. I whip out my camera when I'm outside feeling like grandma and just going around taking pictures, and the picture quality is really good, and the video quality is also really impressive. I hope you're as impressed as I am on the video quality, but I am running out of battery, so I should be fast about this. Oops. But anyways, so I've been kind of taking small videos of just walking in nature and stuff and sharing with family, and it's really fun of being able to learn how to edit and how to kind of cobble together the clips to make a cohesive story. That has been really fun. I think I'll insert a few clips here and there, maybe at the end, maybe in the beginning, so you'll see some clips that I've been kind of gathering and experimenting with. Finally, I just want to see if you have any content suggestion. I don't know if you would want to see a little bit more about my knitting journey, so from the hat to whatever else that I've made up to this point, or if you would like to have like a stash dive, because obviously I have not shown you my entire stash. It's not that big, but I think it might deserve a video if you're interested in. So yeah, so let me know if there's anything else that you'd like to see, and just engage with me. Just would love to hear more about what's on your mind, and on how I could contribute to what you want to learn. So yeah, I think that's all for today. So thank you again for joining me. I'm so happy that you've made it here, and I hope to see you next month. This is going to be a monthly podcast, unless for some miraculous reason I am knitting at the speed of light, which I don't think I'm there. So yeah, feel free to comment on anything really. I would love to hear anything that's on your mind. Feel free to subscribe if you feel so. This really makes me feel like a YouTuber, which is new. Mom, look, I'm a YouTuber! I'll never make a living. Just kidding. There's plenty of people who make a living out of YouTube. That's not my plan though, so feel free to subscribe and comment and engage in any way. You can also find me on Ravelry and Instagram if you like. I'm still working on how to have a real social media presence, I guess. Just search Molly plus pigs. No, wrong one. That's my personal one. Molly plus knitting. If you want to find my personal accounts, Molly plus pigs it is, but my public accounts are Molly plus knitting. So you can find me there. And yeah, that's all. See you next month. I hope you take care of yourself, and I hope you enjoyed chatting with me, and you know, found this time to be valuable or relaxing. So yeah, hope you have a good rest of your month, really. So I'll see you again soon. Bye. Nobody asked for the behind the scenes, but here we are. Knitting, tea, slide deck, and the foundation of my knowledge. This is where you sit.